Hey guys, welcome back to Betrayal of the Body. Nikita here, and today we have my husband Keebler.
Hello.
We're going to talk about our Spoonie Love Story. Alright, so, how did you first meet Nikita, and what was your first impression?
Alright, so, well, my first impression of Nikita was a friend of ours talked about her and explained her more as she was a mom of 3. Didn't ever say age of children. And that she was a cancer patient going through a lot of health issues and never really mentioned her age, ever. So my initial first impression of her was something like, okay, this is some lady, she's like 40, 45-ish, wanting to go hang out with some people at a party younger than her to get back some of her youth or something, because going through cancer and everything. So like my impression of her was completely off from my first meeting of her. So come to part 2 of it. How did I meet her? When I first met her, I was like, oh my god, I wish I was single, because at the time I was engaged. But yeah, my first time meeting her she was hot and gorgeous and somebody I wish I could get to know, but couldn't really get to know because I was engaged to somebody. What was your first impression of Keebler?
Well, the day I met him, my friend had invited me out to his friend's birthday party. It was the first time going out since I was told that the cancer was gone, that I ended chemo, and they got the kidney bag out of me. So this is my first time really going out again. And, as a single girl, I get there full of people my age, kind of scope out, like, okay, who's the cuties, and I wasn't really interested in anyone there, so, we go outside and to have a cigarette, and I noticed Keebler. And I thought he was really cute. I was like, this is the only guy here I'd be willing to hook up with. And he's totally my type, and I swear, like, his girlfriend read my mind. And she, like, beelines across the patio and, like, sits down on his lap and introduces herself to me. And, I mentally was just like, okay, whatever. This guy's got a girlfriend. Move on. Nothing came of it at that time. So, how did you guys get together? Like, who pursued who, and, like, how did that all go down?
Alright, so around this time she was living with a close friend of mine, and knowing while she was living with this close friend that she was dating somebody, so I was out dating around. I didn't really show a whole lot of interest, but starting to hang out with her more and more, she would talk about how she wasn't really interested in the guy she was dating. And when she told me that she was planning on breaking it off and broke it off with him, I pursued her. I went after her more. In the at first it was, she would be like, oh, I have a little bit of pain here, and I rub her out and give her massages and stuff, and one day, it's probably going to get a little graphical, but she was like, oh, I'm going to take my shirt off so it's easier for you to rub my back and it's not getting in the way, but don't look. And I kind of took that as a slight hint to pursue a little more, and from there we kind of just hit it off. Like, we had a lot of fun together. Yeah. Shortly after that, with the roommate had tickets to a concert, a Deadmau5 concert in particular, up at Petco Park in San Diego. And so we borrowed borrowed his car. He gave us the tickets and went up, stayed at his cousin's house. She was extremely sick that day. Oh my god, she was so sick that day. Actually, a couple days prior, leading up to the event, she was super sick. But went up there, had a great time, and started making plans with her cousin for Christmas and stuff. And yeah. And that's about how we got started. How did you and Keebler get together?
That's a funny story. Andrew left out a few funny stories about that one. So when I met him, he had a girlfriend, right? A fiance, actually. And eventually I started dating, someone too. And me and the guy I was dating, we only lasted a couple of months and then we broke it off. And at this time, I'd become really good friends with Keebler and his fiance, and the people's birthday party that I'd gone to. I was actually living there at this point. And so I was like kind of part of that group of people at this point. And when me and my boyfriend broke up, he moved out of my house into Keebler and his fiance's house. And a couple of months after that, Keebler's fiance ended up hooking up with my ex. And so Keebler and his fiance broke up. And by the time they broke up, I was dating someone else. I was dating, we'll just call him Dreads. I was dating Dreads for too long, in my opinion. He was a great guy. Now, please, no one get this wrong. If you guys know who I'm talking about, he is a great guy. He never did me wrong. I just really didn't have that spark for him that you should have when you're in a relationship with someone. It was just kind of, I guess I friend zoned him a little bit. I mean, I didn't because we were dating, but I never fell in love with him. And so we broke up. But before we broke up, everyone knew I didn't want to be with Dreads, except Dreads, including Keebler, including a mutual friend of ours. We'll just call him Kino. And Kino, because I was living with Dreads, and Kino knew that I needed an out. And so he told me that I could move in to his house, no strings attached. I would obviously be paying rent and stuff, but that it would be a much healthier situation for me. So I moved into his house, and he was really good friends with Keebler. And so when Keebler and his fiance broke up, he started coming around Kino's house a lot and hanging out. So that's kind of how we reconnected a little bit, because we had kind of separated when my ex moved into his house. We all just kind of stopped talking to each other. And so this was a reconnect for us. And at this point, I was in a relationship that I didn't want to be in. And he was single, kind of hitting up random girls. He's a little bit of a player, rebounding. And I had no problem with it. He would come over, he'd introduce the girls to us, and it was all just fun and games. We're all in our early 20s, just partying, a lot. So that's kind of like what led to us kind of getting together. That's when Dreads and I broke up, Keebler became very obvious that he had a crush on me. He was telling people that he had a crush on me. He was flirting with me all the time. And I was kind of in a place where I was like, I don't want another relationship. Like, I keep been jumping from relationship to relationship, and I just want to be single for a while. And so I was very resistant, and part of me thought that the only reason why he wanted to get together was because of our exes getting together. And so I was like not down for that kind of drama. But eventually he wore me down. Like he said, he would give me back massages all the time. I mean, like, he kind of played it down. I mean, he was giving me like 4 or 5 back massages a day. I mean, if I had a seizure, he was picking me up like a fireman and carrying me to my bed. He was really taking care of me, and it was really sweet. And so it really made me kind of warm up to him and want to give him a chance. First chance I gave him did not go so well. And he didn't really mention it at all. Our first date, keep in mind, I don't drink, okay? So our first date, we go out to shoot some pool at the local dive bar, and he decides to start the night out with absinthe before we even left. Him and my roommate, and I took a shot of absinthe as well, but it didn't stay in me, I think, even a minute. Like, it went down and then came right back up. Like, it was just so quick. My body was just like, no, woman, what are you thinking? And so we go out. By the end of the night, I was totally sober. He was totally wasted. And he was a mess. We call this side of Keebler Billy. Billy is a raging alcoholic. And he doesn't know his limit. He doesn't know when to stop. And so seeing this side of Keebler, I was like, oh, hell no. I am good. I do not need this in my life. And I didn't talk to him for a while. I had a ticket to go to the Dead Mouse concert with my roommate Kino. And because Kino, let's all be honest, was trying to hook up with me. That's why he invited me to move in with him, because he knew I didn't want to be with dreads. And he was just kind of waiting for his in. And everyone knew the Dead Mouse concert was his in. But by the time the Dead Mouse concert came around, he knew that Keebler was interested in me. He knew that I was somewhat interested in Keebler, and that there was going to be no Nikita and Kino. So he ended up, without telling me, selling his ticket to Keebler. And so we ended up going to the Dead Mouse concert together. And that was the major, major turning point for me. I wouldn't go so far as to say I fell in love with him that night, but kinda. Like, that was definitely the indicator that he was the one for me. I was super sick. I had a fever. I was taking medication, it was breaking the fever, and then the fever would come right back. We had no idea what was wrong with me. I don't remember what was wrong with me, if we did know. But I was very, very sick. And at one moment, we were like, okay, we're just not going to go. And he was like, it's fine, it's not a big deal. I'll just stay home and take care of you. And I was like, you know what? I'm sick all the time. I could be miserable in bed here, or I could be miserable at the Dead Mouse concert. I don't see much of a difference, except for I get to see Dead Mouse. So we went to the Dead Mouse concert, sick and all. And that's what really showed me that he cared. Like, he did not show in the slightest that he minded that all we did was sit there. Like, we didn't go and dance. We didn't, party hard. We didn't socialize with anyone. We didn't check out the booths or really do anything at all. We found a comfy spot on the grass where no one would bother us, and we just sat there and enjoyed the concert. And it was amazing. It was perfect. It's what I could handle, and we were close enough to where we could see the stage. No one was really in our way. No one was bothering us, and we just laid there and enjoyed the night. And it was magical, and it was perfect. And that's really what sealed the deal for me. So, first question together is, who said I love you first, and who proposed? You want to tell them?
Alright, so, in the beginning, I wasn't allowed to say I love you. was no I love you. I forget the exact stipulation, but it was pretty much if you say I love you,
I'll break up with you.
I'll break up with you pretty much. Just done. It's over.
Yeah.
No more. And so I didn't.
Yep.
I didn't.
It was a deal
I
breaker
held
for
off,
me.
like,
I was very much against commitment and relationships. And when I got with him, at first I said that it was an open relationship.
yeah.
And then I closed it. And then I told you, don't you dare ever say you love me or I'll break up with you. So I had to say it first. And then it was kind of the same. It was like, but don't you dare propose. And so then when I decided that I wanted him to be a part of my life forever, I knew that I would have to be the one to ask because he wasn't allowed to.
And the weird part about the proposal. So she's like, let's go out on a date. Let's go to one of our favorite places to eat, and it's Johnny Carino's. And so we went to Johnny Carino's, and like we order our food, we order our drinks, and she kind of sits there. She's kind of a little nervous, fidgeting around like she always does, and she brings up this bag. It says "Modern Bride" on the bag, and I'm like, what is this? Some new thing where the men are the bride now?
Yes.
Like, what's going on here? And she's like, it's my way of proposing.
Mm-hmm.
It was cute, and
I had
said yes.
I had
of
a
course.
really cute little idea planned, and I just was too nervous and too excited to execute it. I wanted to do a little treasure box from the game Zelda, and I wanted to put the rings in the treasure box and say player 1 ready, player 2, press here to start. But I couldn't make the box without the rings, and once I had the rings, I had to ask. I had to just get it over with, rip the Band-Aid off. I couldn't wait. What is it that made you fall in love with Nikita?
Well, what made me fall in love with Nikita was the fact that no matter what, even with all her health conditions, not knowing what was really wrong in the beginning, because she had these problems, but nothing clicked, nothing, like, doctors didn't know. We're always told nothing was right, but I mean, what really, really made me fall in love with her was she always looked on the bright side of things. Always looked towards the future. Looking, like, knowing that it will get better eventually, even with all her health conditions, and it never seemed to really get any better. But she always looked towards the bright side and kept pushing me to do better, to strive for better, and not just feel like I'm stuck where I'm at, or we're stuck where we're at. That's what made me fall in love with her. How do you cope with the guilt of your disability?
This one's a big one for me, and I think I wanted to talk about this because I think that a lot of people with disabilities deal with guilt. They feel, at least at moments, feel like they can be a burden to their loved ones. And I'm no exception to that. It has been a very big struggle with me and Keebler on my feelings of guilt in our relationship. I feel like I'm holding him back. I feel like he could do better. He could be with someone that's healthy and normal, that could support him as much as he supports me. And so that has always been a struggle for me. And I feel like the way that we cope with that, the way that I cope with that, is that I am very honest with my husband about these feelings. I tell him when I feel that way. and he reassures me that's not how he feels, and it reassures me in his actions. He will go out of his way to help me, and it doesn't seem like a burden to him. So those constant reminders is what helps. But I've definitely had those moments when we first got together. I remember telling him, run for the hills. You don't have to ride this ride with me. And he was like, I don't care. I want to. I knew what I was getting myself into. And he says that all the time, And that's one thing, is like, I didn't get sick. I mean, I've gotten worse. I've definitely gotten worse since we've been together. But he met me when I was already sick. So he did know what he was getting himself into. And my illness has always been a part of our relationship. Even when we were just friends, all of my friends were very supportive of my struggles and my disabilities at that time. They all knew about my seizures. They all helped out when I had one, and so it wasn't that much of there was no shocker, like, oh, you have seizures? How am I going to deal with that? Because he had already been kind of taught as a friend on how to deal with it. What was it like for you as a partner on the journey to diagnosis? Because you've been with Nikita for a long time, long before she was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, before anyone had any clue what was going on. What was it like for you to be a partner to that and seeing everything that comes with it?
So, in the beginning, like when I first started dating her, we would go to doctor's appointments and she'd be having like health problems, and it would always seem like the doctors were really dismissive. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. And are you sure you're not faking this issue? Like, I mean, multiple accounts of like her going to the hospital where she was having a lot of seizures. And I mean, we really don't even know what the seizures are at this point, or even where they're coming from. They're still undiagnosed. But I mean, with her seizures, like, we'd go into the hospital and like she'd be having a seizure, and like the nurses would like pick her arm up and like just drop it on her face like multiple times, and like just tell me how somebody that's really having a seizure wouldn't be able to stop the hand from hitting themselves in the face, and somebody faking it would always stop the hand from hitting them in the face every time. And every time they were doing it, her hand would always fall and hit herself in the face, proving them fucking wrong. Excuse my language, but it really would prove them wrong. And like, so like we'd always, like, doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment, it was always nothing wrong with her, nothing wrong with her. Maybe she should start seeing a psychiatrist because it seems to be all in her head. It was always psych diagnosis, or telling us to take her to psych to get her head checked, to make, because everything that's going on with her was all in her head. And then leading up to, like, we finally got word that with some of her health conditions, her just not really believing the doctors that it's all in her head, like started looking into like other solutions, like support groups. Maybe somebody out there in this world is having the same problem and are diagnosed with the issue that's going on with her. And somebody suggested this one health condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And with that, I mean, it's not really connected to her seizures or anything else, but it's connected to like every other problem she has going on. And when she finally got diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, like, doctors started believing her. Like, they believed the pain she was having this whole time in her back and her hips and her dislocations and her hypermobility. Like, they finally believed her, like, to the point where, like, she would get proper medication and being taken care of during this time frame. Because prior to this, she had no medication. No doctors were willing to give her anything because it was always like, oh, it's in your head. It's in your head. So if I could say one thing, don't believe them. Don't believe them that it's all in your head, because it's not. You have real problems. You need help. Sometimes doctors just fail to see that.
So we're gonna do a little Q&A and answer a couple of questions that were on Instagram. First question is, what is our biggest challenge as a couple, and how did we face it together?
So our biggest challenge as a couple would have to be adopting our youngest. In the process of adopting her, after agreeing to adopt her and everything that went down prior to it, we got a call saying she was in labor. And so Nikita flew out from Colorado to California to be here for the birth of our baby. And in the process, it was a false alarm, and things lead to another where Nikita decides to stay out here for the time frame until the baby's born. During that time frame, leading up to that, Nikita's health was getting worse and worse. She was having more and more seizures, and not knowing why. Going to doctor after doctor and getting no answers there, being told you're fine, everything's okay, and leading up to all that. So she comes out here for the birth of the baby, and with that, it was a couple months of not being able to see each other and just not being able to talk. Like, whenever we were able to talk, it was like short intermissions here and there, and it was a struggle. It was hard. It wasn't easy being so far apart from each other. When leading up to that, we were connected at the hips. We were always right by each other. Like, the most we were ever separated was 5, 6 hours, 7 hours away. Like, it was never.
Yeah,
miles.
never went a whole day without seeing each other. I mean, we worked together, we went to school together, we did everything together. So those 2-3 months were really, really difficult being apart.
And so, finally the baby was born. Nikki flies back. I get to see our baby for the first time. It made it all worth it. It really did. It made those 3 months not being able to see each other, like, worth it. But I mean, over the past 3 years, like, it has been a struggle with Nikita's health and having a baby. Like, the first year of having the baby was one of the toughest, I would have to say, because it was constant. Like, Nikita's health was always like there. It was always an issue. Always going to the doctors, trying to find like someone to babysit the baby whenever we could, and just not really having a structure, a family structure to really help out with that was hard. And I mean, as it is right now, we still struggle with it. I mean, we have daycares and stuff set up for while I'm at work, but I mean, it's still hard. I don't have someone to take care of Nikita. So I mean, these last 3 years have been one of the hardest struggles I feel in our relationship.
Yeah, a lot happened. It wasn't like just adopting the baby made everything so much harder. It was at the same time, like, while she was pregnant with her, my health was deteriorating, and then after she was born, I got pancreatitis. Our lives fell apart in Colorado, forcing us to move back home to California, and that has created a lot of problems and a lot of struggles. Because I mean, we pretty much walked away from really good jobs and in a nice house in Colorado, and we came back to California where we had family but we really didn't have anything else. My husband has struggled very much to find work here. The cost of living is a lot more, and so we really have been drowning and just trying our hardest to stay afloat, but not really making it. But I mean, at the same time, it has been a blessing having Rachel. She is something we never thought that we would get the opportunity. You know, we always talked about, oh yeah, someday we'll adopt, but I don't think either one of us ever thought it would really happen. And so having her has been amazing. It's been such a blessing, but it's been hard. It's been hard. I mean, the first year was hard, you know, when I was hospitalized multiple times a month during that first year. It was really hard. My health was really, really bad. And we had a tiny baby at home too.
Vomiting syndrome.
Yeah, the cyclical vomiting syndrome was at its worst those first 2 years. And things are getting a little easier, you know, now that she gets older. But, you know, we still have our challenges. So yeah, that's that. That's our biggest challenge, is adopting a baby. And then, but not just that, it's just that how everything kind of hit us at once. My health during these last 3 years has been really bad. Okay. So our last Q&A question is, and this one's a naughty one, a giggle one, but somebody wants to know if my hypermobility makes sex any more fun. And quick answer?
Quick answer, yes.
Quick answer, yes.
Way more flexible, bendable positions you don't normally think of.
Okay, and then long answer is, on my end, not so much. Yes, I am more flexible than the average person, but it also presents its own challenges. You know, I have like back pain and hip pain now, to where certain positions are just too painful to attempt anymore, where other positions that normal people can't even get themselves into are the normal, comfortable ones. So who figure? So yeah, it definitely plays a role in the bedroom.
And a very interesting twist.
And oddly on the journey to being diagnosed with EDS, once I had a doctor, remember, he said that hypermobility is a good thing, and then just kind of winked at my husband and kind of did this like, huh, motion. It's like, yeah, thanks. Yeah, but so thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you have any other questions, you can leave them down in the comments for either myself or Keebler. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Betrayal of Body, Keebler Elf.